Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me is my co-host, Omar Pozos. Co-host and husband. I was like, that didn't come out right. I was like, I'm missing a piece of that there.
Yeah.
How are you doing today, Omar?
I am doing, let's see, how am I today? I'm doing ecstatic. I'm happy. I'm very grateful. It's 66 and sunny here at home in Florida today, so I can't complain very much. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into things and chat. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's that weird time of year where, it's my favorite time of year where it's like cool in the morning, warm the rest of the day, and so that's where it's like I'm wearing a tank top, you're in a sweatshirt.
I know.
And that's just
for the record, my office gets cold. There's not great airflow in there, so that's why I
also like to keep it cold in the house.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a law with husbands and wives. One likes it to always be colder than the other. Just that's universal.
Listen,
thing.
I like cold, babe. I just don't like Arctic cold, like 67, 66 degrees or whatever craziness you put in there.
Maybe we just need to increase our tolerance to discomfort.
That's a great segue. Tell me more about that, will you?
So I threw together this outline this morning because, most of the time when I come up with like, what do I want to talk about on the podcast today? It's usually like, what do I feel like I need to hear? What's the reminder I need? What's the lesson I need? And oftentimes it's, what kind of conversations am I having with clients? What do I feel like clients could benefit from hearing? Or sometimes I think about, what questions am I getting in the DMs? What are people asking me? This one is really kind of the first two today. This is like a combination of what I need to hear. This is the reminder I'm telling myself constantly. And this is something I've talked about with a couple of clients lately. And I think, some different people could probably benefit from hearing this too. So I wanted to give a little bit of a pep talk on today's episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
Everything's a dun, dun, dun with you. I want to give a pep talk, so less dun, 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 more woo, yay, pep talk. And really about just the fact that you can do hard things. And I think this is a reminder that everybody needs, because we all know it. We're all like, yeah, Vanessa, okay, I can do hard things. I've heard that one before. Great, thanks. But stay with me here. Listen in on this one, because just like, maybe Omar is just not tough enough to withstand the cold temperatures of his office and his house. No comment there.
I don't know where you're going with this, so I'm just listening.
No, it's obviously not a real example there. But the reality is that anytime that we have something we want to achieve, anytime that we want to grow in any way, anytime that we want to change something about our lives, how we're experiencing our lives, what is happening around us, often there has to come a period of discomfort and a period of challenge, a period of hardship. And that's kind of the fact of life, right? Like they're always going to be that kind of 50-50 of good feelings and bad feelings. I've talked about this before. This is something that I believe in life, is that life is a natural balance of 50-50. And with the good comes the bad. You can't have one without the other. You don't even have the perspective of what actually is a good feeling if you don't have the perspective of a bad feeling mirrored with that. You can't have the sun without the rain. You can't have the cold without the hot. You can't have winter without summer. Like you need all the ebb and flow.
You can't have Omar without Vanessa. Put that on a postcard, will you? That was very cheesy.
Yeah. Some would say that you could probably have Vanessa without Omar.
Are you serious right now? Why would you say that? That's so rude.
I'm kidding. I would be incomplete without you, my co-host and husband. No, but I want to kind of give that reminder of like, let's really talk about this and what this means on, the level of what we talk about here, which is often health and body composition and wanting to make changes to our health, how we look, how we feel, all these aspects of things. And I think logically people understand that nothing's going to change if nothing changes, and change inherently is often uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And going into this year, I had shared this on Instagram as well. Like I think it was literally January 1st that I had shared this on my story. So some of you might already have heard me talk about this, but my motto that I chose for this year, I like to have kind of themes of the year. And my theme this year is lean into discomfort. It's one I've had as a theme in the past, and it's one that's always served me well. And I think that is because, like many people, because as human beings, we often, our brains are seeking out comfort, or seeking out pleasure, or seeking avoidance of pain, right? So consciously, as humans, we have to acknowledge that the immediate pleasures, the immediate comfort often means that there's going to be future pain, there's going to be future discomfort. And if we want to flip that around to where we want future comfort, we want to have future good feelings. We want to have a better outcome in the future. That might mean
long-term results.
Yes, that might mean that in the present, we might have to truly choose to feel a little bit more uncomfortable. And we might have to recognize that if we feel challenged, if we feel, bad feelings, if we feel fear, worried, just true like discomfort, we feel, anxious, we feel sad, we feel frustrated, we feel, insert whatever kind of like difficult, bad feeling you might be experiencing, we might have to feel that in order to have those other kind of pleasures on the other side.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is, I think personally, and I think I speak for a lot of people, but our brains are literally like hardwired to give us like the easiest solution, the less painful, the less resistant solution. And I think that's just innately who we are as like human beings, right? However, sometimes the easiest solution isn't like what you were saying, the one that's going to give you those long-term results, or, it's not what's going to give you something that's actually, again, giving you something permanent as opposed to fixed, right? So to me, it's like, and I heard this quote once, but it's like, resistance is a signal that comfort is very much being disrupted. And in order for people to get stronger, to get healthier, to become that best version of yourself, it is going to suck. And I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, like what you were saying, it's like, well, here's the thing. If we want things to change, we got to change the way we do things, right? And so you might as well do it now. And if you're talking about health and fitness, if you can get the help and support from somebody that's done the things that you want to do, then lean into that. And sure, listen, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and I wish it would. I could wave a magic wand and I would do it. But I think part of like the feeling of like joy and fulfillment, and you're like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard. It is that process, and it's that shitty like the uncomfortable stuff that you have to do to get you to where you want to go, because otherwise nobody would enjoy it, right? Nobody would feel accomplished. Nobody would feel fulfilled, because it's like, oh yeah, it was super easy. Like it didn't take any extra effort. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. I mean, think about like, what is your proudest accomplishment?
Mine, I would say being the first one in my family to graduate college.
Wow, I thought you were going to say marrying me, but okay.
Well, that one was, it didn't take a lot of work. I'm just kidding. But that's my biggest accomplishment.
Yeah, no, I'm messing with you. I think that's an incredible accomplishment.
But also leaving my job, my full-time career from college and diving into entrepreneurship, moving. I mean, there's been a lot of things. And I genuinely think, even business-wise, right? Like looking back, we've had good times, we've had tough times. And so I think genuinely, like the reason why I'm like, I feel so good, and most importantly, like I feel confident in myself, is because I've gone through those times.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything that you can possibly, and like, the listener here, you can think back on anything in your life that you are proud of. Just pick whatever comes to mind first, but you could probably make a long list of what are like accomplishments, what are things that you're proud of, what are truly the things that like man, those are pivotal moments in the story of my life. Think about those things. What kind of bad emotions maybe surrounded that? What kind
Probably a lot.
Yeah, what fears did you overcome? What discomfort did you experience during that time? There are a lot of just negative things that typically come that makes it such a great accomplishment, because you pushed through, because you overcame something difficult, because you prove to yourself that you can do hard things. And so taking that back to the health and fitness context, I don't want anybody to interpret this as like, achieving your health goals should just feel horrible all the time, and like you should be suffering, this should be feeling terrible. Like, no, that is not true at all. But you also, on the flip side of that, should not expect it to feel just easy and smooth and without any hiccups, without any difficulties, without ever feeling like you're struggling, without ever feeling doubts about your abilities, without ever feeling, maybe like you've had to, sometimes like we have to, okay, putting an example to this as well. Let's say maybe you decide that you want to work on drinking less alcohol. Maybe that's something that's really been incorporated into your life. Maybe everybody in your family really like alcohol is a big part of your social occasions, part of your social groups. It's part of just like how you live your life. But you're like, you know what? Per kind of my health goals, I know it would benefit me if I drank less, or if I, maybe even for a period of time did not drink at all. Well, do we think that getting to the kind of other side of that, to where we experience probably, the benefits of how we're going to feel on a physical level, probably the health benefits of that, the mental level of being like, man, I did that. That was hard. And here I am. I proved myself that I could. Do we think that those things come with it just feeling easy the whole time? Or do we think that we're going to have maybe some moments where we have our family offer us a drink and we have the urge to take the drink, but instead we say, you know what, I'm going to grab a Diet Coke instead. I'm good. I'm going to have a water. Like, we have to sometimes feel that immediate discomfort in the moment. We have to feel like, God, this is hard. This kind of sucks a little bit in order to experience the benefits. And I think that's something that everybody needs their reminder of. Like, the price of feeling good is sometimes feeling bad. And trying to just never feel bad, trying to be like, oh man, now I feel bad. Now this feels hard. Now this feels uncomfortable. Maybe this isn't the right thing. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this isn't the right approach for me. That's not the best way to think about it, because trying to just never feel bad, trying to chase the route of getting to your goals that doesn't feel hard is literally like trying to outrun your shadow. Because again, it's like the 50-50 of life. Just like we have light, we have darkness. And if you want to have the sunshine, you want to have the feel the warmth in your skin, you're also going to have a shadow behind you. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to outrun your shadow of like, no, I don't want any shadows in my life, guess what? You're going to be wearing yourself out, running forever, and you're never going to get to that place. So rather than trying to run away from the discomfort, run away from feeling bad, run away from hard, why don't we just face it head on and we say, yeah, this does feel a little bit hard, and that's okay. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I'm being challenged here. Maybe it's an opportunity for me to grow.
Yeah, I love that. Can I share another perspective that just kind of came to mind? So just being very vulnerable here this morning, you and I had a bit of an argument, and like we both kind of got upset at one another. We talked it out and we got it resolved. And I was sharing this with our team this morning because it really shifted me into the other perspective of like, hey, I don't have to do this. I get to do this, right? And it's more or less same thing with health and fitness. Like, think about how many people genuinely don't have access to great coaching, or they don't have access to groceries, or they don't even have the money to be able to invest into something like this, right? And here we are in the US, and listen, I'm Mexican, and I genuinely think that this is probably one of the greatest countries in the world, but we are giving so many opportunities that I think people get so, I don't want to call it complacent, but I do think they get a little entitled at times. And I'm like, hey, listen, you don't have to do this, right? You get to do this. And think about how many people would kill to have the opportunities that you have. And so although I understand it's hard, it's also think of it from the perspective. For example, this morning I was telling the team, I'm like, I'm also very grateful that I do have a partner that I get to solve all of these things with, right? And I get to be with you like for the rest of my life. And there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, like you were saying, the light and the dark. But I'm like, I at least have somebody that I get to do this, as opposed to being alone and being like, nobody cares about me and I have, no significant other or anything like that. But I think sometimes it's just that perspective of like, hey, I get to do this. I'm a human being. Like, I'm a grown person. I don't necessarily have to do it if I don't want to, but it's like, if you want to get there, then let's put in the work and like seek the help, seek the support. And sure, it is going to be shitty at times, but regardless, I'm like, nothing worthwhile is going to come easy, right? And so again, it just, to me, I'm like, that's how I like to shift my mind. And I'm like, it just helps me power through my day when things are not going my way.
Kind of taking the bad feeling and allowing that to become fuel for yourself too, because that's another aspect of things. It doesn't mean that we have to change anything if we are feeling bad. Oftentimes we will maybe use it as a signal, because yes, feelings are feedback, and that's a very, very key, very important thing. Don't just ignore, the feelings that you're having, but instead face them and get curious about them and kind of try and understand them. Doesn't mean we have to change them. Sometimes we just need to sit with them and let them naturally be there, let them naturally pass. But if we are noticing that the feelings that we're experiencing are also maybe leading us to taking actions that we, don't want to be taking, maybe like, for example, in the health context, maybe because we're feeling, some discomfort, some frustration around like an aspect of something that we need to change within our nutrition habits. Maybe it doesn't mean the protocol, the kind of plan with how to approach our nutrition needs to change. Maybe it's more of like our own thoughts about what we're making that mean and how we're approaching that actually needs to change. Yeah. Because if I'm feeling that, man, this is really hard, this is really uncomfortable, maybe that's a really good signal for me to get curious about that and get really in tune with what are my own beliefs about my ability to overcome hard things, or what about this specifically do I feel like might be hard and challenging, or do I feel like I might not be able to do? Is it more of like my social constructs and some fears I have around what other people might perceive of me doing this? And then maybe that's actually not even a real problem. Maybe it's something my brain is making up that I can address with those people and see that that's not actually something for me to be afraid of in general anyway.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is, what is the situation saying more about you than what you're saying about the situation or the thing that you have going on in your life, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think, you brought up the example of this morning that, you and I were kind of in a disagreement. And that's, one of those aspects of, I think, something that I'm proud of within our marriage is I think we both have pretty strong emotional regulation skills. And so we both are able to, like, if we do have, a disagreement, which I think is a natural, normal part of relationships. I think there's no healthy relationship that you never
I can make so many comments right now and be like, no, this isn't a disagreement because I was correct. But
I'll be like, stop recording.
I wasn't going to say that, but if I was going to say it, I would say this. I'm kidding.
No, but I think what I was getting at there is I think you and I both are exceptional at the fact that we can, maybe I'm just the exceptional one here.
Here we go.
No, I would say I think we're both pretty exceptional at the fact that we can recognize when it's not actually, an issue with the other person. It's like an issue within our own perspective and our own kind of like the way we're perceiving things. And we can catch ourselves in our language if, one or both of us, says something along the lines of like, you made me feel X, or you are making me feel X.
Example, yeah.
Like that's always for me a trigger of like, I said, you're making me feel X, or when you did this, it made me feel X. That's not true. Circumstances, people, things, life, nothing makes you feel a certain way. Your own thoughts about it, the story you tell yourself about it is what is making you have that feeling, that emotion. So if we're noticing that's happening, that's when we have to be like, hold on, pause. Let's turn inward here. What are the stories?
Like the rewind button?
Yeah. What's the stories we're telling ourselves here?
Yeah.
What's your perspective on this? What's my perspective on this? And we can see like, the reason we disagree here is because I'm telling myself a story about what happened. And that story is, of course, what's making me feel this crappy feeling. You're telling yourself a story about this. Your story is making you feel a crappy feeling. And now we're just kind of pointing fingers of like, no, my story. And that's not serving either of us. So taking this back to kind of this context of we can do hard things in life. Imagine if every time you are faced with something where you're like, man, that I don't know, the protocol, the health protocol that I know I need to do in order to get these results, that is making me feel like I am never going to reach my goals. That is making me feel like I can't do it. It's like the protocol isn't making you feel that way. It's your thoughts about the protocol, your perception of the protocol, your perception of your own abilities, your perception of just your kind of just the way that you're going about it. And so that's what we need to explore. That's what we need to actually get to the root of. Yes, there might be aspects of the protocol that we want to change, and that's where we want to, make sure that it is going to work with you in your life, but it's not all or nothing of, throw it out completely because you're having these feelings of like, this is hard. It might actually be, let's figure out why we're having those feelings. What is the story we're telling ourselves?
Unpacking it a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. Unpack it. And this is where I do think that doing this with somebody else is so powerful. There's a reason that we have guides and teachers and mentors all throughout our life at different seasons of our life, at different aspects of our life, like whether we're, kids in school to being, maybe employees somewhere that you have someone kind of like managing you and helping you, to maybe you're a business owner, you might have a business coach helping you. Like in all facets of life, in all aspects of life, you probably have someone helping you grow in different ways, but you might not have someone helping you address your perceptions and your feelings and different things. And you might need someone to help you with that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this the other night. Remember we were saying, how like at times when we're not the best with finances, we seek a financial advisor. When our car breaks down, we seek a mechanic, right? Or listen, I don't know a whole lot about construction. So I'm like, if something breaks, let's fix a plumber, or let's bring a plumber, or let's bring an electrician. I'm like, so you seek help then. Mm-hmm. So it's like, seek help for yourself. And like you're saying, unpack it, ask questions, seek the guidance. And I think a lot of times where a lot of people get it wrong is they follow maybe the ideas or the thoughts of somebody that isn't doing what they want to do. And it makes no sense, just genuinely speaking, because I'm like, hey, if that person hasn't done what you're trying to do, then why would you listen to them, right? And I saw a post the other day where it's like, hey, a person that's, financially well off is never going to, look badly at you if you're trying to better yourself or you're trying to start a business. A person that's, in a great shape is never going to look bad at you for going to the gym and focusing on these things. It's the other people that aren't there that are holding you back as well.
Yeah, the people who have achieved the things that you want to achieve, they're going to respect you for trying. They're going to respect you for struggling. They're going to respect you for continuing to show up because they've had to do the same.
Right.
And you might not have looked like it was, they struggled. They might have made it look easy, especially the world we live in of social media, highlight reels. Yeah. Everyone makes everything look so easy and seamless, and like they achieve everything perfectly without ever feeling bad. But everybody feels bad. Everybody has that 50% of these kinds of feelings coming up at points in their life. And if you're never feeling uncomfortable, if you're never feeling any negative feelings, then you are not pushing yourself. You are not putting yourself in a place where you can grow. And in doing so, it's going to catch up with you later, probably in the form of regret, realistically. So I know we've talked about a lot of concepts here. I do want to give you a kind of tangible, kind of step-by-step process takeaway for this. So when it comes to, feeling like, man, I'm feeling uncomfortable, like this feels hard, I don't know if I can do this, I want you to really take a 3-step process here. Step 1, I want you to notice. Notice what it is that you are feeling. Notice what is the story that you're telling yourself about this. Notice, what are you making this mean? That's a question I love to ask myself. If I am feeling like a negative feeling, I'll ask myself, what am I making this mean right now? What stories am I telling myself about what is happening here? Turn inward and just get curious. Just notice. That is step 1. Step 2, neutralize. Doesn't mean that you have to change how you feel. Doesn't mean you even have to necessarily like change your perspective. It just means let this be normal. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel scared, stressed, frustrated. Nothing's wrong with you. You're human. That's part of the human experience. It's part of living. And in order to feel good, we are going to have to feel bad sometimes. That's just part of it. Nothing you ever have been proud of accomplishing, again, nothing you've ever been proud of has come because it was just easy getting there. You're proud of accomplishing something because it was hard. So neutralize these feelings. Neutralize exactly what it is that you're feeling. And don't chase feeling good. Just let it be what it is. Then step 3, the last kind of N here is new perspective. And that is if you are like, okay, I've noticed what I'm feeling. Maybe I've named it even. Like you could pull up the feelings wheel and figure out exactly what feeling. It's not necessarily just that I'm, feeling uncomfortable. It could be that I'm feeling, nervous. There's so many different aspects of things. Now I neutralized it. I've, sat with it. I've normalized it. I'm like, oh, it's okay to feel this way. So I'm not like making it into a bigger deal than it is. Now, step 3 is acknowledging that like, maybe I don't want to continue to feel this way. Maybe this feeling, this story that I'm telling myself, it isn't really serving me. It isn't serving my experience. It isn't helping me. I'm not taking actions from this that are good. Well, now I can kind of choose a new perspective. I can challenge the story I'm telling myself. I can challenge the perspective I'm having and just ask myself some questions. What is another way I could look at this? There's just other options. Doesn't mean you have to be like, oh, well, that's more believable, but it's just like, what are some other ways that somebody else might perceive the situation? How might this be a good thing? Maybe I'm looking at this as like, man, this is really hard, but maybe again, coming back to like, well, doing hard things is good for me. In the past, when I've done hard things, that's usually played out well. So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's good that this feels hard. Maybe now I'm excited about the fact that this is hard. Maybe now I feel empowered about the fact that this is hard. What, maybe would need to change? What do I need to do? What might need to happen in order to make this a good thing? Another question I'll ask myself is like maybe thinking of a person who I admire kind of in this field. So like, for example, if it was a business struggle and I'm like, man, this is feeling hard. This is feeling scary. This is feeling uncomfortable. I don't know if I can do this. I might take a step back and be like, hey, what would one of my business mentors think in this situation? What would they do here? What would they think about this? How would they approach this? And I just remove myself from it and I just literally think, what would they do here? And if I want to, I can choose to take on what I perceive their perspective to be here. And then, with that, with a new perspective, sometimes this is where I like to bring mantras in. Truly like choosing a new thought, choosing a additional thought that we also believe to be true. So not telling ourselves that like, you're not afraid, you're not nervous. Like you can be those things. And I can also tell myself that being nervous is a good thing too. Maybe this is just a feeling in my body that like good things are on their way. Maybe this is just me reminding myself that like, this is an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to have a turning point in my story. This could be a part of my story that I always remember. This is going to be something that I'm so proud of. Just truly finding the thoughts that feel good for you and just repeating that to yourself and holding on to that mantra. So step 1, notice. Step 2, neutralize. Step 3, new perspective. a simple kind of little
Simple but powerful, I would say.
Yeah, simple little process there. But I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope this was like the pep talk that maybe somebody just needed to hear.
Especially on a Monday morning. Like, let's get the good vibes going for this week, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, whatever day you're listening this on. But if you're listening this on a Monday, I know a lot of times Mondays we need to hear it. I know that I need to hear this sometimes too. I'm sure I'll probably send this to some clients at certain points too, because we all need to hear this. We all need this reminder. Nothing's wrong with you if you need this reminder. You are just human. You are going through that rite of passage of, here we go. I'm overcoming something hard. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.
Bye, everybody.